2. Hey, hey, hey. 1, 2. Check. Hey, 1, 2. Hey, hey, hey. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Round the rugged rock, the ragged rascal ran. She sells seashells down by the seashore. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, 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 hey. 1, 2, hot. 1, 2. Check. 1, 2. Hey. How do you feel about that? Okay.
Good morning, everyone. And good morning to all of you that are watching this on live stream and on screens. I just have a couple of announcements to make. This morning's 9 a.m. service, which is usually a meditation service led by myself and Norma and our musicians, will be changed. This morning, we're going to do a minister's rap session regarding questions that have been submitted regarding the 2020 year and the COVID pandemic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That said, there will be an official New Year's Eve meditation service, which will take place on Thursday at night at 11:15, just before midnight, because we like to give a brief talk, a few words, and then we share with people meditating into the new year. So that will be at 11:15. The doors will be open for you to come in, and sit in the sanctuary and get started. Thursday evening. Wednesday, there will be no meditation service, just New Year's Eve, Thursday evening at 11 o'clock you can come in. All right, that said, we'll move on.
You're welcome to join us. We're going to sing a song that we usually sing at this season, and we haven't, so we thought, well, let's do it today. So join us if you want to sing with us, or you can just sit and just listen. Tear them down, one
one by one, all the walls that divide us. We won't quit till the work is done, and love and peace unite us, and love and peace unite us. David fought Goliath, Joshua fought in Jericho, and Samson fought the Philistines. What secret did they know? It's the truth that pierced the walls and sent them tumbling to the ground. It was the truth that smote the Philistines and drove Goliath down. Love is the armor and faith is the shield, and we'll hold the sword of righteousness until an error healed. Embedded on our banner, held up high for all to see, it says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Oh, tear them down, one by one, all the walls that divide us. We won't quit till the work is done, and love and peace unite us, and love and peace unite us. To the tyrants of the world, we sound the battle cry. Your time is short, you cannot wait, no matter how you try. Blind with mad ambition, with people bound in chains, laying waste to all you see, like sheep you've gone astray. And so we lift our voices in loud and sweet accord. We say love and peace and brotherhood is what we're all here for. So look down deep inside your heart and turn yourself around. You can wash away what's in your past and move to higher ground. Oh, tear them down, one by one, all the walls that divide us. We won't quit till the work is done, and love and peace unite us, and love and peace unite us.
Very nice singing. And all of you at home singing, I'm sure you're just tearing the neighborhood up with that number. Shad, welcome.
Are we close enough? Camera going to get us all in? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Oh,
there you go. You're not quite center. Go a little center. Come this way. All right, good.
okay. Well, good morning, everyone. We thought we would do a minister's panel since we had Shad here,
Here I
Right.
am.
and it's good to have him back.
Good to be back. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining us online and wherever you are in time and space.
For those of you that aren't aware of the fact, Shad just didn't leave. He actually was hired to become the CEO, president of the worldwide Unity movement, which is about all the ministries and ministers. So he's a big shot now. He'd always wanted to be my boss, and now he's done it.
Technically, the title is Executive Director of Unity Worldwide Ministries. I'm not over the entire movement. I have a cohort friend of mine named Jim Blake. He's over all of the printing, the real estate holdings, Daily Word, Silent Unity, and I'm over all the churches, ministries, the schooling, and the ministers and teachers themselves. So we divvy up those duties that way.
All right.
Sounds like a lot for 2 people to do.
Well, there's also staff. It's not just the 2 of us at Unity Village juggling all the balls all by themselves. We do both have staff and teams. And by the way, if you're ever interested in helping with Unity, we have all these teams that are volunteer teams that people like you and leadership get involved with to help us with things. So we have teams from everything that deal with technology to budget and finance to credentialing, all these volunteers teams you can join that are on our website, which if you're looking and you love this movement, we always need help in that area.
We could use help here, too. Everybody's needing volunteers at this point. This would be an amazing experience, but we also have some nice stuff. Not quite as cool titles. I think we could come up with some more like
It's all about
power
the title.
titles for volunteering here. Yeah. Well, anyway, we had an awesome Christmas this week. We put on our Christmas Eve production where we used music from the last 6 years. And Jack and I met in between. We were here Christmas Eve looking at an empty sanctuary. Well, we did that, and that was quite traumatic, to be totally honest. I hope we never have to do that again.
No, I hope
That
that
was
next
super
year
hard.
we'll be back doing it live and right here, full Christmas Eve show, brand new, with all of our people filling the pews.
So we thought we'd cover the topic of the COVID pandemic and how it's affected all of us. And, you know, we had people send in questions about their questions as far as, you know, what is the spiritual point in this? You know, does God have a part in why it happened? And, you know,
Well,
yada,
read the
yada.
questions, because
Yeah.
it's all involved in the question.
So the first question that we got was, does Unity believe the COVID pandemic is an act of God? And for what purpose? You can take that one.
I think we're probably going to have different responses to this, because I believe that everything is an act of God. For me to believe that and to continue in a positive way in my life and all that I do and the inspiration that I feel, I would have to believe that the divine plan by this grand intelligence we recognize to be God is somewhat beyond our finite comprehension. We could not understand how you could say everything is an act of God if you still believe that God is benevolent. However, if you are open to understand we are not as expanded in our awareness to comprehend why things happen the way they do, even unfortunate early deaths, accidents, wars, and things like that. It's all moving towards some greater ideal or plan for humanity. Ultimately, what I believe is that humanity is forever evolving, and not just our level, but there are those who have already transcended this level, and they're advancing in their life experience to places where we are not yet understanding. And so the whole process is moving. Like I believe right now there are human beings living on levels of awareness that they call the world, and in their world there are no hospitals and no doctors because they're no longer required, they're not necessary. They've transcended the whole idea of sickness and disease on that level. They may have other challenges that we don't know about, but they are still evolving. And there's levels beyond that, maybe levels beyond those who are capable of levitating and moving through different geographical experiences by teleportation. I believe that because I believe that humanity is always evolving. And The difficulties and the wars and the pain and the suffering and the disease are there because we haven't yet awakened. Our consciousness is creating those limited things. The fact of the way we interpret ourselves is creating, outpicturing those limitations that we feel, and also some of the beautiful, wonderful things that take place are outpictured from our own consciousness. All right, I'm done.
You know, I have met with lots of people. I do the bigger majority of the counseling and meeting with people on the one-on-one basis through coronavirus. Originally, we did it outdoors, outside, and now I have people meet me in my office with masks on. And I found that people that really had a deeply meditative life haven't really been affected. Like they'll literally say, I've seen this year as really a holy year in a way, that they already lived in that state of surrender and that direct guidance from God. It was so, they felt like they had more time to do their practice. It tended to be older people on the older spectrum, more retired type of folks that already learned to be in not that constant distraction of the world and have stuff happening all the time. So they were already in a state where they weren't 100% engaged in everything. They'd found a way to fill their hours with peaceful time with spirit. And then you have the other side of the spectrum, which is like hysteria, like almost like manic energies from people that were used to bustling in the world, and it kept them from feeling their actual feelings about their marriage, their children, their careers, and those are the ones that were really having a difficult time with this year. And, you know, and so it's an interesting thing that some people just spiritually were already prayed up to face this year. You know what I mean? And then obviously as parents, when you have children and stuff, we don't have the time to be as prayed up and prepared for a pandemic that now is going to isolate everybody to your house, which quadrupled your cooking levels, quadrupled your cleaning constantly, quadrupled, you know, and I'm living that reality, and it's super annoying. I mean, there's no question, but I have also had a great time with my children, and I'm with them more, and I'm so much more aware of where they are in their schooling and things like that, because, you know, Mike and I are the teachers of it all, you know, so there's been a lot of blessings, you know, and yet a lot of distance, and I think truly who were most affected are people that were already extremely lonely in their lives. They were already lonely. So there was these little ways they engaged, and those little ways were taken away. And those have been the ones I've been the most worried about, for sure.
Someone called it the spiritual bank account.
Yeah.
I met once. You make deposits while life's going okay by doing meditation and prayer. You're making deposits into your spiritual bank account. Then life gets difficult. You start making withdrawals from your spiritual bank account. And that makes sense. You're talking about people that were prayed up and meditated up, doing the practice for years before this happened. They now have that, you know, abundance to pull from. And they can move through this without so much anxiety and hardship. But for me, that question, God is balance. God is harmony. And when we're in this life, we always have the opportunity to move towards balance and harmony, which is the path towards God. But humanity makes imbalance and makes inharmony. And so we have pandemics because we are out of balance. We are out of harmony. So God's divine plan is balance. God's divine plan isn't to create suffering and disharmony. That's what humans do. God's divine plan is balance. But when we're out of alignment with that, we create disharmony. So what we're seeing in the world is the effect of us showing ourselves we're out of a balance. It's not God punishing us. It's us reflecting back to ourselves that we're out of balance with each other. We're out of balance with nature. We're out of balance with silence. We're out of balance with spirituality. And we're out of balance with those in the neediest of our society, that they're affected the first and most, and it's unfair. That those that can't afford to lose their jobs are the ones that lost it first. And those that could afford to lose their jobs had the technology and capability to work from home. And so we're seeing this giant exposure of ourselves and our own flaws of how out of balance we are. And it just takes this little thing to flick us and we all of a sudden explode and see, oh my goodness, we are so out of balance. We have this work to do to get back into alignment with God's divine plan, which is balance and harmony.
Okay?
Yeah.
Next sentence. I'm going to combine these two questions. Fundamental Christians believe salvation from sin is necessary to keep from going to hell. What does Unity believe about sin? What does the word salvation mean in Unity? So, fundamental Christians believe salvation from sin is necessary to keep from going to hell. What does Unity believe about sin? What does the word salvation mean in Unity? Okay, well, the word salvation itself means to be saved from some limitation, some problem, some, unwanted set of conditions. So you'd be saved from them. And of course, that can be taken and expanded upon to understand that our personal feelings of depression, anxiety, fear, and things like that, they actually are, our spiritual work in Unity is to actually transcend that. So to live lives of inspiration and good feeling and happiness, that's what we're doing. So we would be being saved from depression, anxiety, fear, worries, and concerns, and self-imposed guilt, and things like that. We would be saved from that. To Unity, that's what salvation would be. Saved mostly from our own limited thinking. And I guess that's what we would say in Unity from my point of view. Sin is not knowing the reason for our limitations and difficulties, not being ignorant of the fact that we are often involved in creating or self-imposing limitations from our mind into our lives. And so salvation would be saving ourselves from ourselves or from the ego, which does that.
And so it's not really about saving yourself from sin for some distant day when we die so that we don't go to hell. In Unity, our entire practice is about bringing heaven on earth. So it's getting rid of the hell that we're personally experiencing from our own limited thinking, and that's why we meditate, so we can heighten our consciousness and start to look from an eagle view of what we really feel about ourselves, about humanity, about this planet, about God. And when you're in that higher state of consciousness, when you're meditating, you'll recognize, wow, you'll see things you say to yourself that is so debilitating and so awful, and you go, I need to adjust some language and bantering that I'm having with myself. You'll get an awareness that you're taking on stuff from other people that you don't need to be taking on, and you realize that's their truth, that's not my truth. So the meditation's about discernment, starting to covet your spiritual connection with God and how it is always channeling through you, and it's always trying to get your attention. But if we stay constantly distracted, we don't hear that inner voice that's like, this needs adjustment, this needs an adjustment. And as we adjust, we become more and more free, more and more happy, more and more honest with others and ourselves, and we become a lot more of a co-creative source of healing for others and this planet. And so if there was any reason for this pandemic, I would say it would be not to, I thought it was interesting, and Shad did too, when the pandemic happened, one of the necessary places was churches, but so were liquor stores. I mean, to have that be a priority, considering it is a really dangerous thing that's happened during this time, because people don't know what to do with self. When all of a sudden they're falling from a cliff, What's the easier way? To go and drink something and then feel terrible the next day, or sit in meditation and to evolve spiritually during this time, to have used it as this beautiful time of more quiet, or finding the zen in the busyness of the kids and finding a way to just stay chill in the midst. Like, I love the book, the title of the book, Surrender Experiment. That's what I feel like this year has been. It's been a surrender experiment. And can you stay peaceful in the midst of so many things not going right in your life and everybody's life?
The more I've befriended people that are fundamental Christians or evangelical Christians, and I've learned more about that path since I wasn't raised in that. It's sort of a new world to me. It's entirely opened my eyes to how similar we actually are. And this concept of sin, it's really just a small shift to how we see it and how it's seen by those that have another interpretation of it. You know, and there's this sin as an act against God, and that God's going to punish us for this sin. I used to think, that's so wrong, that's so off. But then I realized it's just a tiny tweak to that, and it makes lots of sense. The act of God is this harmony. It is this balance. And every time we step out of balance, out of harmony, we are punished by ourselves, by our own actions. Right. And it's so close to how it's seen in evangelical fundamental Christianity. It's so close, but it's just this tiny shift that, yes, there is this essence of God. There is this potential of God for goodness. And every time we act out of harmony with that, there's punishment. And it's really just, well, where's the punishment come from? Well, evangelicals might say, well, it's God, or it's Holy Spirit, or it's the essence of Jesus. We'd say, no, it was just me. I made the bad choice. Now I'm being punished by my decision. And it's my path to learn and grow and recognize every time I'm punished to not do that again and to do something more uplifting. And so selfishness is always a sin because it's always out of alignment with harmony. And every time I'm selfish, I'm going to be punished for that by my selfishness.
And you know that you're being selfish.
Right.
That's why. So it's the knowledge that we know we did something wrong, even though we can try to talk ourselves out of it. The law of attraction attracts to that knowing that you were out of balance. So it's the consciousness of knowing, and yet we push and go, no, it wasn't that bad. I mean, I totally yelled at that person, but they did. I mean, they kind of deserved it. You know, like that kind of feeling, but you just feel like wretched because you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have reacted that way. And then you get a moment. I also think, you know, sometimes, I mean, if I looked at my week this week, if I thought that I was being punished, on Tuesday night, I lost one of my closest friends to cancer. And she was diagnosed in 2020, March of 2020 of all times. And later that night, I have a barn on my property that the wind was so crazy, it just completely demolished. It looked like a tornado hit my field. And it's everywhere. I don't even know how we're going to get this structure. We have to like put on the Christmas Eve. And it's like, oh, this COVID just keeps on giving. I mean, I'm a funny person. My nature's like, well, this has been a fun week. I know I didn't do anything to deserve any of those things. It's just, is it growing me? I think that because of pandemic, I'm like, oh, and that too. Kind of like, all right.
Anything's possible at
this
point.
Water off of the duck's back, it's just less attachment to outer things, more love for all my friends. I didn't miss at least communicating with my friends in some way on Christmas. I usually don't, and I definitely was texting, make sure everybody that's still alive, I want you to know I love you, because I really I need to constantly, you get the value of your friendships and you learn from difficult times. It's not always a punishment. I think we grow and we become better people from loss as well.
Yeah, well, I like to just use an illustration that I often use, that life is a school. It's a learning process. And we may make mistakes. For instance, if you ride your bicycle and you have a clip you're supposed to put around the cuff of your pants to ride it so your pants don't get caught in the chain. But you decide to ride your bicycle one day without the clip, your pants get caught in the chain, you get thrown for a tumble and busted up. God doesn't send an angel to beat on you, to say you're made a terrible mistake. Your mistake has proven to you that this is not the way you should go. You should use more awareness. And so the first time, it was a mistake. The second time you go riding without that brace on your cuff, that means that you're obstinate and your lessons need to be harder. So life is always teaching you along the way to be awake in living, and you can begin to discover the limited ideas that you're still clinging to that are causing you inconvenience and difficulty.
It feels like we're so numbed in our society, and some might call it we've become so soft. I mean, you look at our ancestors and the things they were able to do, and that children were running a farm by themselves when they were 8 years old, and the parents could go travel and go hunting, and the kids would take care of this entire farm, and that we've just become numbed to what we're capable of because it's become such a convenient society. We're numbed by our television, we're numbed by our media. We don't have that fortitude to learn from our lessons. We don't necessarily see our lessons because we're just so numbed to the experience of it.
Right.
And so we crash on our bike because of our parents. We yell at our bike, we yell at our pants, we get back on, we do the same thing tomorrow morning.
Right.
Because we're numbed to the lessons that are coming to us all the time instead of stopping that moment and going, okay, what is the lesson here? All right, I tuck my pants in before I get on my bike. Every time I move forward, I've now learned, I've now grown, I move on. But you see so many people, it's the same thing over and over again. They get into the same relationship over and over and
That's
over
right.
again, and they never stop to go, all right, who was I in that relationship that attracts the same relationship every time? Why don't I spend this next year really evaluating myself before I jump into a relationship that is the same and find, where am I going to fix myself? Where am I going to grow from this?
Right.
But it just seems to me that we're in this fog. We don't listen to our bodies when they're telling us that they're not feeling well. We just push through it, or we take an antacid, like you like to say, or we take a Tylenol, say, numb the pain, numb the pain, numb the pain. Our whole life is designed around, don't listen to the messages. Just ignore them or push them aside.
Right.
And just try to find a way to cover them up the next time, even better, so you don't have to listen to them the next time. Instead of being so present with the fact that we are in a school, we're constantly being taught, our world has come unraveled at this point because so many of us have stopped listening to the basics of the lessons of harmony.
And that's really it's the reason why when you do watch television, you see all of these commercials, so many of them for pharmaceutical drugs that people have to take in order to assuage the problem that they have physically. And if you see all of this, you know that the pharmaceutical industry is almost keen about keeping us stupid and not awake, so that when we're awake, and I always give the classic example, they've got this pill, I think it's in a pill form, you take when you're going to eat something that always causes you heartburn. Can you imagine this? There's something that...
You take it before you eat.
You take it before you eat, so you
Right.
don't get the heartburn that you always get when you eat it. What about listening to your body saying, hey, dude, don't eat this?
If it hurts you when you do this, don't do
do
this.
it.
It's like going to the
pretty
doctor
simple.
and saying, it hurts when I do this.
Yeah,
Well, stop doing that.
right.
Actually, on my podcast recently, my friend Melissa, who does a podcast with me, she said years ago, we're working together, she said, you told me that you don't think Tylenol actually gets rid of headaches. You think it's just the fact that the person finally drank a glass of water and got hydrated that it removes the headache. And I started laughing. She's like, do you still believe that? I go, I think so. Like, that's a pretty bold statement. I said, I think 80% of headaches are probably dehydration. People don't drink enough water, just in general. And the fact that they finally go get a glass of water to take a Tylenol is they're drinking some water. So yeah, Tylenol probably does get rid of the headache. But the thing that probably keeps it from coming back is they finally drank some water. And the headache was saying, you haven't drank enough water. But we'll want to numb the headache instead of actually going, all right, what have I done in the last 3 days that has caused this headache? Well, I drank a lot of coffee and then I didn't drink coffee. Or I haven't drank a glass of water in 3 days. I haven't really stopped. All I've been drinking is soda. Whatever it is, our life is constantly talking to us. And if we're trying to numb those signals because they're annoying to us,
Right.
they only come back twofold later on, and then just slowly cascade until it's a problem so big it's almost too late to do anything about.
That's true. It's true, and I think that ultimately, following this pandemic, or maybe maybe in the middle of it, maybe right now it'll start to happen, that the medical society will start to point out the necessity for your immune system to be kept healthy by eating more healthy foods. Our country is involved in fast food and junk food so totally, and those industries are so not inept, but they're actually keen on selling you this stuff or selling it to your children. And I think at some point, I do think that the fact that so many people are dying from the pandemic because they have ill health to begin with. Their immune system is so totally compromised. And they keep thinking that you need different kinds of drugs in order to counter these problems, these physical problems. But the fact is, we have to begin to eat better and live healthier lives, which makes the immune system strong to offset things like these viruses. We have viruses around us all the time, and in our bodies as well. But many of us, it doesn't have any effect whatsoever. And people that are asymptomatic, their immune system hasn't been compromised. That's why young people, their immune system, they haven't been around long enough eating enough junk food or crap to compromise their immune system. But I think this is all going to come to light.
Or the tests don't work.
Yeah.
Well, there's a theory out there that this
too.
is a weaponized virus that got loose, right? And I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but the fact that we do weaponize viruses, we do weaponize bacterias. And from a consciousness standpoint, the fact that humanity weaponizes these things in labs around the world, we do it in the States, we do it around the world, the fact that we do that, you just think about the karmic implication, not that this is what it is, but that we have a human consciousness that weaponizes bacteria and viruses.
So we're dumber than we even think we are.
We're so out of alignment with nature, and you wonder why nature is going to rise up, and eventually we have to face it. Right. And I've talked to people, and it's like, whatever you try to do to stop nature, it will win. It will always win. If you try to suppress nature, you try to stop nature, nature will win. And I think we're looking at a point right now where nature's saying, I can win. I don't want to. I don't want to go to war with you. I don't want this to be a battle. But you're so out of balance, I'm just reminding you, I'm pretty darn good at what I do.
Was I right? I'm just this way.
It's just balance.
Yeah.
If you're going to get so out of balance, you're going to get rocked back into balance. And it's
That's
not necessarily
right.
going to be an easy
That's right.
process if you're fighting it the whole way.
And before this pandemic even came about, I mean, if you look at Jack and I and Shad services, the 2-3 years before that, we were constantly talking about the isolation we were putting ourselves in due to iPhones and computers and children on video games. And that was already happening. There's a major problem with us isolating ourselves through technology, and then we were forced to be isolated with technology, and now it's like, I need to hug somebody, I need to talk to somebody's face, and so if there's been some gains of this situation when you were forced to now do technology and you don't have the choice of the human contact, it awoke a sleeping giant that was within us. It's like, we are community-oriented beings. We need human interaction. We need to talk to faces. We need to laugh with other people. We need to stimulate and think about our thoughts by sharing with others and looking at their eyeballs and their responses and their smiles and their isness and their vibration and their aura and all of it. And that, I think, has been the hardest part for everybody. Even people that already isolated themselves is, I want to come back to community again. I need to be out in my sisterhood and go hiking and do stuff together and get stimulated by life. And I think that, you know, every spiritual leader, religious, spiritual, we're talking there's been a fall off in churches. And we're finding that the churches are filling back up. You don't see them here, but they're on live stream. People are feeling the need to connect with God again. My children are playing their instruments now, and I don't ask them to go and practice their instruments. They're playing them, and they're writing their own music. They're not just sitting on the video games, which they have all that stuff. I'm watching them change. I'm literally watching through children that I'm not forcing to go into the creative, going into the creative and painting. And my oldest daughter's writing all the time and started this blog. And Tyler's super writing music. And this evolution is coming out of this. It's a super huge gift. Because the problem was there before the pandemic happened. It's just that something outside now said, you can't do that. You can't do this social aspect of life. And it's like, oh, you don't tell me what to do. Even though we were already doing it to ourselves.
That's where the whole idea of balance comes in. You say you want to go for a hike, you want to be with some friends, you want to sit around and just, have a good time, joking, talking, etc. But you realize where we were headed anyway. I think this was a wake-up call in that respect, because you were watching people sitting in a restaurant, and both of them were on an iPad like this, across from each other, waiting for their food to come out. And then when their food came out, they're eating like this. I've seen that. And then you see a conversation taking place with four people, and you see usually younger people doing this. Well, just standing there with other people, but they're on their iPhones. And they're communicating with somebody else for some other reason, somewhere else. So the isolation was really taking over. Is it going to happen? I think the pandemic has actually forced us to see, do you really want to just be separated from your fellow man? Do you want to be separated? Because is it so that the ego says, I can handle my life on my own? I just want my own feelings, my own thoughts. I don't want to have to be involved in sharing. Was that where we were going?
Well, I think the danger is, I have a staff of 24 people, and I've gone and none of them are working on site. They're all working remotely right now from their homes, except for 3 that come to the office with me, because we have to keep the space. So I talked to each one individually and asked them, when this passes, there will be a day when this passes, and it's safe to come back to the office. Will you be planning to come back to the office, or will you stay remote? Only 2 of them have said they will come back to the office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, most of them said they would like a hybrid option where they could come to the office on a day or 2 if they want to do some printing and some work there, but they liked being at home. And I think this has also done a dangerous thing for our world, is we don't like dealing with other people. And in a way, the ego loves the fact that it becomes just about me. I'm now just in my home, it's just my job, doing my work. I don't have to leave my house and deal with the store clerk. I don't have to deal with the Uber driver. I don't have to deal with my boss, because I don't have to see them in person. I don't have to deal with my coworkers who keep coming into my office. And the thing I heard over and over again is that, I get a lot more work done at home because I don't have people peeking their head in my office to talk to me. And if you're a boss, you go, oh, that's great, we're more efficient, we're getting more work done. But then as a humanitarian, I go, but that's part of living, is a human coming into your space and saying, stop working, let's have an interaction for a second. Regardless of whether it's about their fluffy dog or a project you're working on, is life really about the efficiency of work? Is that the most important thing we have going on here? The workspace was the last place we were forced to be together. It's like you had to go into work. You didn't have to go to school, you could do it online. You didn't have to go to church, you can watch it online, but you had to go into work. Now that sort of last stronghold of human connection, we've seen, now everyone's celebrating, we can all work remotely, and we can never see each other ever again. And so I'm stuck in the middle of this battle because I'm this young guy, head of this company, and people are thinking, oh, he's going to teach us how to all do it from remote. And my heart's saying, that's the end of the world.
Well, there's another side to that as well, but you know, a lot of these corporations have made work almost intolerable because it doesn't allow you to, you know, be involved as a collective group working to make something happen. You know, you hear stories about, like, I think it has to do with Amazon. They have time persons standing there telling you how much time it takes for you to get that package and get it out. And that's, you've got to keep into those time slots. Well, that's not really conducive to feeling okay about work. That's just turning you into an automaton, a robot, in a sense. So I think what it actually all comes down to is consciousness. Are we ultimately going to tune in to where the divine actually lives, which is in conscience, so that we would never do unto others what we wouldn't have them do unto us? When is that going to ultimately become the way we carry on our lives? Imagine just one day, if everybody in the world simply abided by, today I am only going to do unto others what I would have others do unto me. Can you imagine the harmony, the peace, the love, the sharing, the healing that would take place? It would be unimaginable. Why can't we get there? Why are we creating viruses in bacteria in laboratories to kill other human beings? That's why I say we have to be evolving. There has to be levels that we're going to evolve to. And these difficulties like the pandemic are going to help us get there, because we're going to see the flaw in our isolation and our ego-centeredness. We've got to recognize it. It may not happen overnight, but over time.
We're seeing it. What do you guys think? With a show of hands, do you think that you're seeing that people are learning like grasping the fruits of what will bring us back to a better world at this point?
How many?
Or no?
Be honest.
Like
Raise your
this,
hand
no,
if you
you don't think we
toward a better
have,
world.
or yes, you do think so?
One positive, one neutral.
Middle, positive.
Okay.
So we're kind of split on that. What do you think, Mommy? The little ones. You're not sure?
You also have to think about, what are we being shown? This world wants you to believe the world is doomed. The world wants to show you that we're doomed. They want to show you the inhumanity against inhumanity. They want to show you chaos and destruction. They want to show you that you can't trust your neighbor. That's what it wants you to believe in. So you don't really get to see the people that are really pulling out of this and doing amazing things. They don't want you to see the new era of business that is coming out. So there's a faction of it that people aren't going to be working in the office. But now we're seeing that there's a project-based business model coming about where it says, I don't care how many hours you work a week. I'm going to hand you a project, and if it gets done in time, you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah.
And we're going to say, and we don't care about how many vacation days you take. And we're having these discussions as business leaders. I don't care how many vacation days you take. If I gave you a project and it got done in time, I don't care if you did it from midnight to 4 a.m., if you did it in 4 hours and the rest of the week you had off, who cares? We're a team working to complete projects. And if we complete them however we want to complete them, it now opens up the creativity of the team that says, we could do this in 2 days and it's a month-long project. Fine. That's great.
Yeah, but fine to a certain degree. Human beings have got to get over the illusion of more. There's an illusion that more is better. More proves you're successful. More in production. Because when I drove a truck for Hostess Cake company before the ministry. And I knew all the other drivers that were driving these trucks. Well, you had so many stops you had to get to. And not only that, you had to go to the stop, you had to take the stale bread and cake away, put the good stuff back in, then you had to make the change and everything. Then you had to go find the store manager and show him the sheet where you did all the work. Then you have to come back in. When you get back in with your truck and your cake, you have to count all the stale, all that you put out, and you have to revise it on a ledger and how much of the money you took in from the store and the whole thing. And if you started coming in before 5 o'clock, they would add more stops. So here's the thing. I mean, we've got to grow up and get holy. We've got to get to that place where we are aligned with the divine. We really do. So that we take care of each other and live in accordance with taking care of each other. But one thing I want to say is this particular lady in the front row has the most obedient 2 boys. I'm not kidding. She's here every Sunday with these kids, sitting still in church, listening to this dribble. It's unbelievable. I mean, you need to write a book about what you do to keep them like this. They're amazing. I want to say thank you, and I want to say thank you to you boys for being so, open to be here.
And they're totally engaged. You
Yeah,
can
they're
see them
totally
completely
listening.
listening to what we're talking about up here.
Right.
It's amazing.
Okay.
Can I send my kids to your house and see if we could do a little tune-up on them? All right, I think we can close with that, and we'll
Okay.
take an offering.
We'll take
for
an
Unity
offering
now.
for Unity
And
now.
next service, if you want to come back, we're going to do our annual burning bowl ceremony. So if you wanted to go and take the hour and write down some of those things that you're ready to burn and move into your wholeness, and let go of the things that are taking your peace and your love and your happiness away, and really let 2021 be a gift, regardless of what's going on in the world. Okay.
Okay, we're going to take an offering for Unity now, and we do it in our COVID restriction way. We say to all of you that are here, we do have, dip jars for your credit card if you want to make an offering in that way. We do also have a basket in the lobby that you can leave a physical check or donation. Those of you online, anyone can actually donate to keep this ministry going by going online to unityofboulder.com, and there's a number of ways you can text an offering, etc., and things like that. So right now, we're just going to bring to mind whatever gift we'd like to make to continue this Unity ministry in Boulder, Colorado. And we're going to bless that gift, that financial gift, with this affirmative blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for showing up. Again, we're going to do the 3 of us again at the next service. We'll do some different questions, but we'll also have our burning bowl ceremony, and we'll do it in a COVID way. But we will have you can write down, and you can think about this, write down what it is you'd like to have get out of your life, be free of, and transcend. Write it down on a piece of paper, what you want to be done with, and then we'll have you come up, and you can burn it in our burning bowl with our prayer. So it is.
Yeah. That's it. Okay.
Open my eyes, O divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you. I want to feel you. Open my eyes, O divine one. Open the eyes of my heart. I want to feel you.
So it is. That completes our service. Hopefully we'll see you next service.